Howdy, this is Lemmy with RevZilla TV, here to talk to you today about S&S air, fuel, and intake products for Harley. You should be considering S&S air and fuel induction products if you are looking for a simple, reliable way to atomize your air and fuel mixture. These things are currently being made for an absolutely huge swath of Harley products. We're talking from panhead stuff right up to twin cam, Sportster, Big Twin Evo, Shovel. You guys all have something from S&S. It's kind of part of their magic. Use our bike finder, throw your bike information in there. We're going to show you the stuff that fits your bike exactly. Installation, all this stuff varies because we have quite a few products up here, but I think it's safe to bet that most of this stuff's going to ring in for most people at about an easy 2 beers. There's not too much wrenching involved here, but there is a little bit of knowledge that you're going to need in order to attack some of these projects. So let's talk a little bit of history about S&S. This is a company that got their roots a million years ago racing. So long ago, these guys were actually racing flatheads. The company progressed. They made all sorts of cool go-fast parts, push rods, heads, carbs. They worked on just about everything. If there was something out there that would make your Harley faster, odds were very good. Smith and Stankos, the fellows at S&S, were behind it and making it in their factory. So some of you old timers may recognize one of these puppies. This may be the pinnacle of S&S carburetor development up until, say the 80s or so. This is a Super B. Now these things are not for sale on RevZilla's site right now, but this really does represent one of the most modern carbs you could buy. In the old days, Harley hadn't really figured out carburetors. Carbureting was still sort of an art to them, and they used a lot of different carbs over the years. Linkerts, Tillotsons, Bendixes, Key and CVs, Key and Butterfly carbs. They just used everything. What that means is if you walk into a dealer and you have a bike, you may not be able to find carb parts for it. Why? Because they use so many. It would be absolutely prohibitive to try and keep all that stuff on the shelf. This is where S&S came in. They made these carbs that were just super duper reliable. These things were Stone Age simple. They were Mad Max reliable. Everybody knew that an S&S carb was going to work. And what that wound up doing really was developing a reputation for them that meant that there was this one carb in the aftermarket you could go to and would always work. So much so that there are still today, to this day, lots of aftermarket products made specifically for S&S carburetors. It's kind of funny when you think about it. There's an aftermarket part that other aftermarket companies are making parts for. It's a testament to what a good system it is that they have put together. So hauling that Super B back out again, like I said, this was the coolest thing in town until S&S came along with the Super E. There's a couple things that really make this thing stand out. Firstly, you'll notice the height of these carbs when I lay them on their side. The Super B is much taller. And when I say taller, that means it sticks out the bike a little bit farther. Anybody who's run a Super B knows these are great carburetors, but they really do beat up your knee. They sit so far out, your air cleaner winds up beating the tar out of your knee unless you have mid controls in your bike. The Super E solved that. One of the other things you might notice here on the Super E too is this little fixture on the side. This is an accelerator pump. Accelerator pumps are kind of cool because it means when you snap the throttle open real fast, you're actually going to get a response. Your bike is going to jump to life and it's going to take off down the road. The Super B didn't do that so much. Kind of had to roll onto them a little bit slow. You had to baby them. The Super E really has fixed a number of those problems. These things started in production in the late 80s. In 2004, S&S actually made their 500,000th Super E carburetor, if that's any indication as to how popular these things are in the Harley world. If you go to just about any shop, be it indie or a dealer, you're going to be able to find Super E's and Super E parts. Why? Because they're ubiquitous. They're simple, they work, they're inexpensive. This is the pinnacle of carburation for S&S. It's very likely they won't develop another carb because this one simply works. This is as good as carburation gets. Part of the other magic, I think, behind S&S carburetors and intake products are the fact that they're so modular. They make this stuff to fit a lot of different stuff. So with a lot of carburetors out there, there'll be a company that makes a great carburetor, but you're sort of on your own to get it onto your bike. You have to fabricate your own manifold or maybe wind up with some sort of hokey arrangement to hang on your bike. That's not true with S&S. S&S takes care of such a wide variety of motorcycles, it's really kind of crazy. When you consider all the engines that they have stuff for, really is kind of nuts. Like I said, Pan, Shovel, Evo, those of you on twin cam, Iron Heads, Evo Sporties, there's something for just about all of you. You can see over here we have a couple of intakes. You can see I have a late model Shovel style here, and we also have an Evo Big Twin. They make these intakes for everything, and you'll also notice too, they offer flanges. These are good positive sealing flanges. They're going to keep you from having intake leaks that do plague Harleys. And the other thing that's great about these is they really do design them carefully. Because the intake tract on a Harley is so short, the intake's very important. The fuel and air needs to be atomized, and it also needs to be tumbled up on its way into the cylinders in order to give a good mix to each one of the jugs. So these intakes are part of what add value to the S&S intake, air, and fuel system. The fact that these things are going to fit 50, 60, 70 years worth of bikes very easily brings a value there. You know that they're going to be around for a long while. These are the de facto standard. It's very easy to order parts for these things. You don't have to kill yourself racking your brain trying to track down parts. They're just easy to find everywhere, and they work no matter what kind of Harley it is that you're pushing down the road. So moving down to this side, as far as the accessories for these things are concerned, you can see here the teardrop air cleaner. We've done this thing before. You guys have seen a review on this, I'm sure. It is arguably the most iconic air cleaner in the history of motorcycling. Everybody knows these things. If you go to any bar, you're going to see a handful of these things, and they're all over because they work. So when we pop off this beautiful chrome cover, you can see on the back here, this area is specially shaped to draw air in at speed. It does a good job, again, tumbling up the air and fuel as it's coming into the intake. It's going to help build horsepower. The other cool thing about this particular cover design is it doesn't leave much of the filter exposed. There's plenty of room for air to get by here, but it's not leaving the filter exposed to elements. That's important if you happen to ride in the rain a lot. So breaking this thing down a little further, you can see here these cotton gauze elements. These really do let your bike wolf down a lot of air, more than your bike is going to need most likely. And then one of the other cool parts too are these backing plates. They shape this radius in here very carefully to make sure, again, the air is getting into the intake and it's going to tumble efficiently. So it's moving in at good velocity, and it's also going to do a good job mixing with the atomizing fuel that's joining it as it heads on into the jugs. But the other thing that's nice too is these backing plates differ from bike to bike. And the reason they offer so many backing plates is so you can hang one on your motorcycle without having to fabricate a whole bunch of stuff. It's really nice being able to bolt everything onto your bike. They include great tuning instructions with your carburetor kit, and these things are really going to help you make power easily, but you're not going to have to go through a whole bunch of tuning and figuring out how to hang a carburetor like you do with some of the other off-brands. S&S stuff bolts up and works right out of the box. Really is great. I run these on a lot of my bikes. There's a reason for it. There's a reason I do it. There's a reason a lot of other folks do it. So moving down the line here, you can see here we have a rebuild kit as well. Remember I was talking about getting parts and making it easy? Well, this is part of the magic here. You can get rebuild kits very simply, very affordably, and they include everything you need to keep your old S&S on the road. They're taking care of you after the sale. This really is a carburetor you're going to buy for life. It's not the cheapest carburetor out there, but when you consider it over the long haul, it really winds up being a good value. Again, it might not be the most inexpensive thing to purchase, but the fact this is going to give you good service for years, and you've got S&S tech and their parts standing behind you, means that you have a carb you really can buy for life. It's something that's going to be with you for the life of your motorcycle. And then moving on, just the little tiny stuff here. Carburetor brackets. Sounds kind of silly, but if you have intake leaks, a lot of the time that's due to your carburetor not being held up. I didn't even know that S&S made these adjustable brackets. I used to make these until I found out that they were selling them. Really is simple. They're adjustable, they fit just about everything, and they do a great job of supporting the weight of your carburetor and air cleaner so you're not tearing up your intake seals as you're rolling down the road. Some of the other cool stuff here are jets. My God, they make jets for just about any size motor you could possibly want to run on your motorcycle. Whether it's something super duper tiny, you're running like maybe a little 45 Magnum, or you're running some huge 124-inch monster, they've got jets that are going to cover you regardless of what it is that you're running. You can throw them in your Super E, you're going to be set to rock and roll going down the road. And then the final thing on here, and some of you old timers are going to laugh at me because I've always removed jets with a screwdriver. I thought everybody did that. Until one day I actually saw the tool they make and I thought, oh my gosh, that must be a total waste. But if you look at how well this thing fits up, this thing grabs the notch in the jets absolutely perfectly. I know you guys have taken boogered up jets out of carburetors, and it's from ham fist, grab it in there with a screwdriver, feeling around, tearing up the brass with a steel screwdriver. This tool makes it so dead simple to get something out of there. It engages really positively, and it sounds kind of silly because it is kind of an odd tool to have, but they do such a good job at keeping the jets in good shape. It really is a good investment. So in terms of installation, I'd said about 2 beards for most of this stuff. So if you're going to strip your carburetor and your air cleaner right off your bike, you're starting from scratch, you're starting from a pair of cylinders, putting an intake on is not too bad. Bolting a spacer and then a carburetor up to that, not too bad. Again, basic hand tool is going to see you through this job, and then slamming the air cleaner on the outside of it, again, not too bad. Basic bolt up stuff. The actual tuning process can get just a little hairy if you've never done it before, but as I said, S&S might have some of the best tuning instructions I think I've ever seen. All over the internet, you're going to see people posting up S&S guides because they're super useful. If you walk through it the way S&S is asking you to, you will have a bike that is most likely going to start up very quickly once you fire it up. And then from there, tuning it really is very simple. They make it very easy to figure out what, if any, problems you have with your bike, what to do, as far as troubleshooting and making sure that bike's going to run its absolute very best. From there, again, rejetting, stuff like that. One of the things that's great about Harley is that carburetor really does hang off the side of the bike. It's very easy to access everything on an S&S carb. You can rejet, you can tune, you can do things very easily without taking apart anything. Really is kind of nice, and it really does encourage folks, I think, to experiment and see how well they can get their bike to run. So if it's not very plain, I really love S&S intake and carb products. I run these things on a lot of my bikes. I've had a lot of them over the years. Everything just works. My opinion is not the only one in town though. Click below, check out what some other riders who are rocking an S&S product in their bike have to say about it. If you've got a question that I didn't cover for you, get in touch with one of our gear geeks. 877-792-9455 will get you geek on the horn, or you can always email us, cs@revzilla.com. I'm Lemmy, I'm out of here.